Am I the butthole for not canceling my doctor appointment and causing my husband's guest to leave? Me, female 26, and my husband, male 29, moved out of our hometown right after we got married. He's very close to his friends that he met from high school. He tries to use every opportunity to see them in person and spend time talking to them. He heard that 3 of them were visiting our city for 2 days and they wanted to visit him the day before they leave the city. He was so excited. Prepared everything for their visit and stood at the door waiting for them for an hour. They arrived at 4. I made coffee and brought sweets so my husband could spend more time talking to them. Then he suddenly looked at the clock, which was 5 p.m., and told me to go upstairs so he could talk to me privately. My husband freaked out, saying he had an important meeting with a client via Zoom. And it'd take about 40 minutes for it to be over, and asked if I could stay with it as guests until then. I reminded him I had an appointment with the doctor at 5:15 and couldn't skip it. He asked me to cancel it and stay with the guests. He didn't even want to hear my response. Just rushed out for his meeting. I got dressed and went downstairs. I told his guests that my husband had a 40 minutes meeting and I had an important appointment with the doctor. Told them they could wait or leave if they didn't want to wait. They chose to leave. And I went to my appointment. In 45 minutes, I got an angry call from him asking why I told his guests to leave instead of sitting with them until he was done with his meeting. Said he missed his friends and wanted to talk to them more. He said I always let him down and act unsupportive, although he always entertained my family when they came to visit. Truth is, he just loves spending hours talking to my brother because they share a lot of interests. So he wasn't doing it for me. He argued about how I was being negative. And how his friends must have felt awful being kicked out like that. He said I could have gone to my appointment 40 minutes later and explained to the doctor. But that's not how doctor appointments work. We argued back and forth. Everyone in the waiting room was staring at me because of how loud my husband was talking. Until he hung up on me, then sent me a text. With the word selfish in capital letters, SELFISH. I just couldn't stay. I've waited for a week for my appointment. I understand he misses his friends, but this appointment was important as I've been constantly dealing with an unbelievable pain and needed to see the doctor as soon as possible. I've been on medication, but it's not doing much. Just sitting in the waiting room is exhausting in itself, so it's not as I went out with friends. Not the butthole. Does he seriously think you can show up 40 minutes later for a doctor's appointment and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm late"? My husband had a client to meet with and I had to entertain his friends. How would it be fair to the doctor to cancel at the last minute when your spot can't be filled? Exactly. At this point, I really think he was being unreasonable. I don't know what other options he might have had, but to ask me to cancel my doctor appointment is unreasonable. Besides, I'm not close with his friends, so sitting with them for 40 minutes would have been unpleasant. Oh my God. Not the butthole. Even if you loved his friends, you weren't healthy. He was being selfish. Original poster, not you. Horribly, horribly selfish. You waited a week. In pain that isn't managed by medication, rescheduling or being late would have made your pain appear less severe, and goodness knows what could have gone wrong medically if you just ignored it for his buddies. Remember, you were in pain and your husband called you selfish for not entertaining his friends when you could barely sit in a waiting room. You couldn't entertain, you couldn't reschedule. I can't get over that you're in pain for at least a week and he's like, just be late or reschedule, and if you don't, you're selfish and unsupportive. That is because for concern, I'm not going to lie. What happens if you get sick? What happens if you have something wrong someday? An injury? He's not proving to be supportive now. This, can I ask what dose the unsupportive BS is? What does he need support in this situation? If anyone was unsupportive in this situation, it's the husband not supporting his wife's health. I don't understand what you mean. I'm saying he wasn't supportive. Edit, I was quoting what her husband said. He said she was always unsupportive. I was calling him out, basically. Saying that he was claiming she was unsupportive when he in fact was the unsupportive one. I meant that the husband said that to original poster that she always act unsupportive, and to be honest, that triggered me. My ex-husband used to say thing like that to me whenever he wants to turn the table to make me feel guilty. It's a manipulative move to accuse you with something that has nothing to do with the situation to put you in a defensive mood. Edit, I agree with you and could see what you meant. This was nigh unreadable. I think you mean nigh unreadable, where nigh means near. Neigh is the sound a horse makes. To be honest, I'd be so disappointed and angered by him, I'd reply with, "Stop acting like a child. Don't make me rethink marrying you." Because honestly, he definitely acted immature, not the butthole original poster. I mean, whom is he married to? The way he expects original poster to skip health care for his friends makes me wonder. He thinks his wife is his secretary. He double booked himself and he expected her to just handle it for him. This is a fantastic way to put it, lol. Lamau, smiley face, so true. Honestly, maybe she should rethink marrying him. He certainly doesn't gaff about her. OMG, not the butthole, he didn't even explain it to his friends. He just left without a word to them, expecting original poster to go and explain his absence. I think he did that on purpose, thinking that under the circumstances original poster would have no choice but to follow orders. That's awfully rude towards the friends he supposed values so highly. I know you mean well, and it seems like there's real reason to rethink her marriage, but that line, a thinly veiled threat to divorce him, is a bad idea. Divorce/separate or don't, but if he needs a threat like that to behave like an adult husband, the marriage is already on life support. I don't know why people are trying to legitimize the need for her not to reschedule her doctor's appointment. Husband was being a dickhead either way. Original poster is not the butthole. Does her husband often prioritize his own appointments, needs, and wants over hers? He was a giant dick for expecting her to play the little lady and entertain his friends instead of canceling his own meeting. Especially at the last minute. Then he anti-upped his dictum by expecting her to just cancel, or be late. I roll. Like any doctor's going to wait 40 minutes, her doctor's appointment. Then he employed the nuclear dick tactic and blamed her for his friends leaving instead of waiting on his ill-prepared ass? Her husband can either apologize profusely to her or go F himself. It's because it draws attention to how abysmal he was. It doesn't need legitimatizing but does illustrate how huge of an he was. We're not being all well, if it wasn't important then, we're pointing out that it's that much worse. Fair enough, but I honestly think the worst part of this is that he fully expected her to drop everything to cater to him and lashed out at her when she didn't. I don't care if she had a nail appointment or was going for a walk around the park. Agreed. I have spent the past 2 weeks in agony with the only painkillers that work being opiates. The difference is 1, we know what causes my pain, and 2, my partner has been super supportive. He's encouraged me to talk to my doctors and pushed me to go up A&E when things got worse and no professionals were listening to me. He's taken care of my painkillers and doled them out when I need them. I have a problem with the particular PKs I'm on, and to stop me abusing them, he takes care of them for me. It's not a control thing. I cannot be trusted with them. Yes, my doctors know, but as it's the only thing that works, they prescribe the smallest amount possible. He's taken care of me when I can't move for pain and cuddled me while I wait for PKs to kick in. Because that's what a supportive partner does, not "Oh darling, I know you've had unexplained pain for a week and desperately need to see the doctor today, but I need you to entertain my friends while I work." That's ridiculous, childish and selfish. Shaking my head, not the butthole original poster, not at all. His options were not to set up 2 overlapping meetings in the first place. This is so not your problem, but your husband seems unreasonable and extremely quick to lash out on you for his poor planning. So much this. He didn't get an important meeting out of thin air. If he was so excited to see his friends, he should have let them know beforehand that he would have to absent himself for less than an hour. Unless he's a really crafty husband, he'd have known about Op's doctor's appointment. In what world does he think it's acceptable to spring that on original poster just before she goes for her appointment? It's also very rude of him towards his guests. Even if original poster stayed and entertained them, as a guest I would have felt pretty annoyed to be put aside by the person I came to visit. And I'm quite sure the guests didn't leave because original poster said you have option A and B, but because they thought Op's husband decided to spontaneously F off for an hour? What an I'd rather leave and visit someone that values my time. Note that Op's husband didn't even tell them himself. Probably because if he did tell them, it would seem like he only thought about his time and not wasting theirs. Yeah, literally, why didn't he tell his friends that he had a meeting but he'd be back in an hour and ask them to wait? WTF. Or schedule the meetup later. Or schedule his client meeting later. I would have assumed this was a huge hint that we had somehow upset him. Hey, I know that you're my husband's dearest friends, but he couldn't be bothered telling you that he has something else on. Oh, and by the way, I'm leaving, so you want to hang around like a bad smell or leave gracefully without making a scene. Right. Sounds like a very 50s thing to do, like when it was expected for a housewife to drop something for husband on a dime. Thoughtful face. The way he spoke to her on the phone while she was at the doctor proves that he's a crafty husband. Her health is more important than entertaining his guests. It's his fault for double booking himself and he's lashing out at her. Yes, it was on him to tell his friends he had a conflicting appointment, not leave it to his wife, who was already in pain and had gone out of their way to clean and set up snacks. He should have been upfront when he knew he had a conflict, to either meet them earlier, or after the meeting, or to check if they were cool waiting. Why didn't he just show up to the meeting very late and explain why, as he expected original poster to do? This is what I came here to say. He expects her to not show up for her healthcare appointment. If he thinks that's reasonable, why he chose to not show up for his meeting didn't. I mean, he could show up late and explain, right? He had the option of telling his friends about the meeting when first making plans. He screwed up there, because he forgot. He also had the option of telling them when they got there so they could expect to sit for 40 minutes. He opted not to do that either. His choice was to not address the issue, with the expectation that you would stop everything in your life and resolve his issue for him while he continued on with his life as normal. Lastly, even if the doctor saw you 40 minutes late, you would be setting the place back 40 minutes. This could cause the staff to be late picking up kids, making dinner, and everything else going on in their lives. Not to mention any overtime pay to the staff. Not the butthole. When your husband wrote selfish, he must have forgot he was talking about himself. I have to wonder if the friends left because he didn't talk to them. Had he brought out drinks and snacks and gave them the remote and begged them to stay, they might have stayed. On the other hand, sitting downstairs while a childhood friend disappears into his office without word might have made the visitors feel awkward. This was my thought as well. He says he misses his friends and wanted to spend time with them, but couldn't be bothered to let his guests know what was going on. Not the butthole, no. He was the one being absolutely selfish. My favorite quote in cases like this is, poor planning on your part does not necessitate an emergency on mine. He could have chosen a different time to meet with his friends or postponed the meeting. None of this was your responsibility. Medical needs trump his friends and his work absolutely. He does not sound like long-term partner material at all. Not the butthole. 1. He made the playdate, he manages the playdate. 2. You have a medical issue, does he not know how doctors work? You make and keep an appointment or be pushed off for longer as they will think that it isn't that bad an issue. 3. Why didn't he show up late for his meeting because of his friends? If it is fine for you, then it is fine for him. I can agree that someone in this script is selfish, but I wouldn't be pointing the finger at the original poster. Not the butthole. Why does he think his Zoom meeting was more important than your doctor's appointment? Why didn't he reschedule his Zoom meeting? Why didn't he tell his guests to stay while he took a quick meeting? Your only issue is your husband. You're good. Not only that, but original poster waited a week and is in pain. She needed this appointment that day and probably couldn't physically handle being a host. That's very true. At my doctor's office, you aren't allowed to cancel last minute like that anyway. If you pull that more than once, they start talking about banning you from their services. Barring real emergencies, that would be totally fair. It's a business. I think all my doctors charge a fee if you don't give them notice the day before, but would be more relaxed about it if it was a one-time thing and real emergency came up. Not the butthole. His poor planning is not your responsibility. Hey, tell him to push his client meeting if he wants to hang with his friends so much. Where is his own commitment to his friends? Oh. I see. He wants original poster to sacrifice but not himself. Not the butthole. I can't believe I had to scroll down so far to find this. ETA, also, how is anything a higher priority for him than helping his wife get relief from her pain? Yeah, what the hell, if I went to someone's house to see them and they disappeared into a meeting they didn't tell me about and I had to sit around and make small talk with their spouse for who knows how long, I'd probably leave too. Talk about awkward. Not the butthole. Lack of preparation on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on mine. One of my favorite sayings. And to tell her literally right before the meeting? Not have a conversation with her well in advance, so they could come up with a plan? What a butthole move. It's not even that. I don't like these unsympathetic snappy one-liners. If my husband made a planning or a calendar mistake, I'm happy to cover for him to let him spend more time on something he'd been looking forward to big time. But not at the expense of my health. The issue isn't you don't owe him help, you should always try to help people close to you like this. The issue is that she was prioritizing correctly, health, a little social time, and he isn't and being a jerk about it on top of it. Not the butthole. I have tried to consider how you might be in the wrong and have concluded there is no logical way to believe that you are. Your husband should have gone down to his guests and explained he forgot his client meeting and you had an appointment and asked them nicely to stay. The way he handled it was rude to not just you, but also to them. Yup. If he had asked them, they could well have stayed. But his weird behavior of just disappearing and having his wife explain he'll be gone for 40 minutes is super rude. If I was a guest, I'd have felt like I was imposing and left too. Nothing to do with ops behavior at all. I would 100% have left if someone had their spouse tell me I could stay or go, because I'd assume that if my friend didn't tell me themselves it's because they wanted me to leave but were too chicken to say so because they thought it might hurt my feelings. Yeah, it's 100% on original poster for being super socially weird. He's the one that made an inconvenient, and actually avoidable, situation awkward for his guests. This all could have been avoided if he just had his schedule together and his friends come at 6 p.m. What a knobhead. Or, just explain that, yo dude. I forgot about this huge meeting. Give me like 30 to 40 minutes. Beers in the fridge. Make yourself at home not that hard. And if they're that good of friends, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm baffled by the way he handled it. This is the right answer. You know how many people I've left at my house because I had to dip out for something. Yo dude, I got to be right back. Beer and food in the fridge. You know how to work the TV. See you in 20. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.